Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to another installment of the Quick View series. We've got a bit of a breakdown to go through first because this is episode 2 of It Came From the Workbench Volume 64. As you'll be able to hear from the microphone, undoubtedly, it is absolutely pouring rain outside, and it has not rained in, jeez, it's August. It hasn't rained in probably 2 months, 2.5 months. It is bucketing down outside. This is proper desert stuff. I had other plans. We shift and we pivot. The first installment of It Came From the Workbench Volume 64 was taken care of in a live stream, which will be linked in the description. We are building what was named in the live stream Yukio, because we were going to go with the next 23. We have a couple other Capra caged or caged buggies, Capra axle buggies, and we were going to build. This is a build for my wife, who has taken up trailing with me, and if I'm building her a buggy, it means she's taken up rock crawling a little bit too. So I knew I was going full black and silver theme. I don't know about you, but I think it looks gorgeous. The goal of this is to at least get this thing to a runner, right? We're not that far off. Listen to that. Absolutely thundering down out there. I can feel the cold air coming in the front door. It's really quite amazing. So, during the live stream, we went through the process. So these are the Poth Yes Amazon offset Capra clone axles. They are largely not recommended. I still have some of the bits removed. I want you to draw your attention to this ring gear. And no, I'm not rotating that off axis. That's how badly that is mounted. They also appear to be, like, they look machined, but it might just be bead blasting. The grease feels flaky. When you're buying a set of Capra axles on Amazon for $100, basically treat it as if you're buying the housings. I replaced virtually all the parts. I replaced the front universals with double cardons. I replaced the stub axles with the heavy-duty 5mm stubs. I replaced the portal gears because the portal gears are almost certainly cast. I replaced the portal gears with machined, again, bought via Amazon, but machined portal gears. 1421s in the front, 1223s in the rear, so we'll have 22%, give or take, of total overdrive. I went with overdrive because we're running a 1450 kV outrunner in there on a Stealth X, which has been geared such that our final is, if memory serves, final at the front axle is around 45 to 1, and then final at the rear axle is 50 some odd to 1, right? So it should, 45 to 1 on a 1400 should be just about right. This is the part of it where I feel like I'm having to yell over the rain, where I have to say, do as I say, not as I do. This is not the recommended approach for building this. The skid that I went with required, you can see how it's squared off here. I had to cut it further down with a bandsaw. I had to grind away part of it right here. They used to hit, so that was taken off on a sander. I love the way this skid works. If you can see that pin. So it uses 3mm pins, solid pins, to go through the inner links. And then they're held captive by the side plates, which I had to make as well. I had to cut part of the cage out. If you're gonna do this, order axles from Mias, get Mias offset Capras in either 2-wheel steer or 4-wheel steer, and then get the Injora Capra cage. This is a genuine, bona fide axial Capra cage, which is why it doesn't have an interior. And I had to locate panels by virtue of having bought a full Capra about 4 years ago. So I just repainted the panels silver. We're going full black and silver, black and silver. Also, the wheels that I opted for, I do not recommend these as well, because these are now hand machined to get them to look the way I want them to look. And I think they came out fine. Basically, And if you like to do a lot of work, if you like to have to do a lot of mod work, I had to cut up through the front of the cage to give the shock a better position to mount. Had to machine the wheels, had to cut out the back portion of the cage. If you like having to do a lot of work, then maybe this is the angle for you. If you want parts that you can bolt together, this is not the approach. Rear lowers 165, rear uppers 140. That won't mean anything to anybody because I built these pieces with the link attachments. Front lowers 145, front uppers 120. So we do have a good link length differential, so see that pinion just stays flat. See the bearing trying to fall out of the Pothies because they're not very tight. We see on the back, same. It's the pinion angles are near excellent. We have up around 7 inches of full travel. I have already come to the determination that I don't know. And here's what I don't know. This is standard 9mm hubs on these wheels. This is an exact 360 millimeter wheelbase. Wheel track outside to outside is 270 millimeters. To see what's happening there, 90, 180, 270, 360. So we have a 75%. The width is 75% of the wheelbase. I don't know. I feel like there might be magic hidden in them thar hills. Part of me wants to pull those 9mm hubs, put 14mm hubs on this thing, span this thing out 10 millimeters. 280 360 doesn't feel as good as 270 360, does it? I argue that it does not. So what we're going to do is we're going to take you along little bits here and there. I've got a little bit of fabrication to do, a little bit of cutting, a little bit of cleanup. Like that front shock needs to be laid down more. I think to lay it down more, I think I need to Dremel away more material right here behind the shock key. We also need, I wrote it down, the front knuckles. Because the brass is so chunky, the steering stops right there. This tire should basically almost be touching right here. So on the back side of this knuckle, do you see where it's flat right there? I need to just chamfer that off with a Dremel. Just take that little edge off because it's hitting right where those squares meet. So I want more steering angle out of the front, and I know that we're not at the travel limit of the double cardons. This thing I can kind of almost tell you with certainty. I can't tell you with absolute certainty. 2200 pack, just, I have not tried to fit a 20, yeah, that's what I wanted. That was design consideration number 1. Can we just drop in a 2200? And yes, we can. Everything clears, just barely. Front upper links almost in contact with the battery tray. Rear uppers touch the cage as the shock is fully collapsed, but see, we get full travel there, so it doesn't matter. These are, of course, Amazon Chavtex, fake Dravtex. I want to say that these were $11.99 a pair, rebuilt with TRA 2669, 3-hole pistons, 40 weight low C oil, and then we've got the TRA 2362 seals in there, and they feel phenomenal. You watch that slow drop. Ah, so good. Of course, 60 kg flash hobby direct power up front. As mentioned, the Rhino S20 1450, and we have to solder up the secure Escape 3270 amp and figure out where we're going to mount it. We've also got to get a receiver dropped in it. We have cut-to-length drive shafts waiting for it. We've got to attach the panels. No ghost ride here, as those panels are like probably going on 4 years old. We have a steering link that is going to need to be replaced. Basically, you see that link right there? That should be touching that. Who's got it? So while it's not an identical setup, it's as close as I can display. Look at the angle of those tires. Look at the angle of that front tire. And now compare that mentally with your mind to a very similar design of axle, but hey-oh! Look at the proximity to the link. Like, look at that amount of steer angle. And it's, I mean, most of it is completely different knuckle weight. So you see how that knuckle weight tucks all the way around, because it's not like that particular axle has that much smaller of an out end over here. When you mix inexpensive aftermarket parts with other inexpensive aftermarket parts, you kind of never know what you're going to get. So sometimes luck be a lady, and sometimes not. So we have to address the immediate stuff first. We're not going to take this thing out and test it up the rocks. There are Crawler Innovations Lil Novas inside the Ibex, and they are the super soft. This thing is power bagging. Was mentioned in the live stream, will be mentioned again now. The rear axle weighs 415 grams, and the front axle, still without a drag link installed, weighs over 1,000. I want to say it was 1,030. Is that right? It's a kilo? There's that bearing trying to fall out again. We're going to have to get a drive shaft on there sooner rather than later, but this is all thread locked together. The rod ends on these should be discarded. Basically, if you're going to go against your better judgment and my poor judgment, if you're going to go with my poor judgment and you're going to buy inexpensive Amazon housings like this, you're going to discard about half of it. You're going to throw away all the gears, the stubs, the universals, all the hardware. The hardware on these wasn't bad, but I would just I would replace it all with black oxide, as I did here. We're going to throw away these rod ends, because you will see the rod ends have really thin walls on them, and if you put them on here and run them for any appreciable amount of time, you will tear one. And it's like, see how thin that wall is on that edge. It's not worth it, because we can go into here and we can get, for direct comparison, there's that, and there's what we're going to replace it with. You going to tear that? No. Well, first we're going to check to see if it clears. Yes, it does. You're not going to tear that. That's TRX4 steer link. This is what I call a mustache, and this is for centered pumpkin, and yet they keep shipping them out with offset pumpkins. Now, we don't have enough steering throw at the moment. We hope to have enough steering throw soonly. I thread locked all this together. I am going to get these pulled off if I can. There we go. Don't try to drive off angle. Oh yeah. I had that confidence. And I purple thread locked these down such that if I start hammering on them, I'm gonna break everything. Hopefully we'll have a moment to get this on the scale. We can see what we're looking at in terms of weight bias. It is going to be extraordinarily front biased, I believe. Mostly because of, kilo front axle. And at this point, where we sit now together on this journey, I cannot guarantee you that these knuckles are the knuckles. I will dig the bin. Oh, yep, that head rounded out a little, because this is the one that I tried to. So let's straighten the circular file. If a screw fights you like that, throw it away, because otherwise the next time you're going to tighten it down, and then when you get it fully tightened down, it's going to decide that that's its forever home, and it's never coming back out, and it's just better not to. An ounce of prevention and a pound of cure, or something to that effect. So there is the double cardan. I recommend these wholeheartedly. I genuinely prefer this to the Mias Isokinetics. I prefer the double cardan to the Isokinetic. The Isokinetic has a bit more total throw to it, but everyone here is outfitted with, except for one. I do have a Mias set. and they will not pulse because it's double CVD. They can't, like the isokinetic could probably get all the way in to touch. You can get a lot of steer angle to the point where you're going to start to get mechanical interferences of like drag links hitting things. But I love these. So where we were going to begin is right on this edge right here. I believe that just needs Dremeled out. So I'm going to get a cutter and I'm just going to Dremel that out. Just round it out. And then we're going to throw 2 screws in there. We're going to see if it throws farther than it did before. And I kind of remember how close, like if we can get that to hit the body, that's what we're going to try to do. And then we'll move on to the next thing at the checklist, which is fix the front shock mounting. Now, overall, would I recommend putting a little bit of tape over that or something? Maybe just hold your thumb over it. Yeah, probably. But I'm not too worried about brass dust getting up in there. Now, we're going to do no thread lock. And you saw me throw one away. Before we're done, I will discard all 4. Is that bearing still in there? Yes. We will discard all 4 of the kingpin screws and replace them with fresh ones. Because there's really no reason not to. Okay. I didn't take a ton out, but you don't have to take a ton out. That's all the way on it already. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at it, and we can go... Okay, to get any more throw, see where I had a little slip and there's a little notch right there? I would have to continue that bevel all the way up to there, which is taking a little bit off of the structure of the box. Like, that is really close. Let's slap one of these on and see how much more are we working with. Oh, yeah. Okay. It is not much. It is not much that you have to remove. Yeah, we're past 45. Look at that. Yeah. Laying it down. Just that little bit. I used a 1/4 inch double cut. Just reap. That's all it needs. I will probably I will take this one down a little bit more just to where it looks uniform. And then I'll do the exact same on the other one. Look at that. Getting that road grader lay down. Also, we have to move the front upper link position. I think the pinion is aimed a tiny bit low. I'd like to rock it a little bit. And I don't think we need as much link. I'd like to go down 1 hole, but it's behind the cage. So we've got to get to that. This is that stuff. Like, not the first buggy that we've built. We've built a couple buggies now. And I feel like each time we build one, I feel like we learn a little bit of something. At least I hope. And recently I learned, we'll classify it as today to call it TIL. I learned that on these, you're going to want to turn that, which is just squared off, to that cut-in bevel right there. And I'm just going to run them both up just a little bit higher, because I think that will max it, and I'll just clean it up so it's not as rough on that. Nobody's ever going to see it except for me. These are very inexpensive. My recommendation, if you're going to put capper knuckle weights, do it this way. These are the giant deluxe ultra heavy, and then on the inside I'm just running plastic axial boxes. Concentrate all the weight out onto there. Try to keep your rotating mass low. These are quite light because with the low roll center, with the links touching each other, 200 grams, which for a 5.5, 5.4, I think they said about 5 1/4. That's pretty low. Full set 800 dead. 200, 400, 600, 800. So when I machined these down, holy hell, I guess I did pretty good because each one of those is exactly 200 grams each. With the low roll center, if you have a lot of really pendulous weight action, if you have heavy, really heavy weight stuff out at the corners, when you get into that high flex, it can basically flywheel you over. Like you get all that rotating effect. And it's not so much that it's rotating, it's that it's out too far. Don't try not to get the weight out further than this. And we're taking a couple grams off. So we will have this front slapped back together, and then just like that, we can erase one of the things off of our list. So there's a fairly even amount of removal from both sides. I had that one, everybody's favorite thing, said no one ever, when you're and it slips and goes dink off the front, so we have the one little speck of brass there. Hitting. Not quite hitting, but it touches. Let me tell you something. I was grinding away over there and trying to get those two to be the same. We've got the mustache bar with the TRX 4 ends on it, which is going to be Robusto, and we got to pop the hollow balls because sure looks to me like these are 7.5s, and they are 7.5s. If you have a 7mm hollow ball in a 7.5mm opening, and I think everything on this, I'm pretty sure everything on this is 7.5, it is going to, in my experience, it is going to contribute to that cumulative slop growing faster and faster. Like you want the part that fits, basically. And surprisingly, based on what we paid, surprisingly based on what we paid, the fitment in all of the double shear points on everything is really quite tight. Definitely acceptably tight. Some to the point where you feel like, I'm not going to be able to put this together. We're not going to put the other screw in because we're going to take this opportunity. Oh yeah. Remember how far away it was? Yes! It's not limiting steering, I don't think. We are going to take this opportunity. Let's see if these threaded on the same amount, or do we have toe in? We've actually got some toe in. We can pull it out a little bit. We'll go 1 revolution and 1 revolution. This is the high-tech method that we use to set angle. I think 1 more revolution at one end. So we're out 3 full turns, and that looks pretty close. I go for neutral toe. All other things being equal, I want the axle straight. So now we are going to get that guy. We'll just line this up. Nothing is centered. We're going to determine a couple of things. We have to see how much of a spacer are we going to have to run down from this big monster servo horn. How much angle can we get on the drag link? I generally like to go either the 3rd hole or the 4th hole. If we have to, we go all the way to the front, which is what we did on this one. It is going to limit torque because you're moving out further, less torque, but it is also going to increase your speed. So we're going to try to go for a happy medium on this one. That looks like an 11mm spacer and a drag link length of about 80mm. That drag link's about 80mm. So we can go a little bit longer. Are we running a spacer on the knuckle? No. So we can go a little bit longer. Yep, 80mm it is. So we're going to go for a little bit more drop. We're gonna try something a little bit different. This is the way we do. We're gonna try something a little bit different, and to do that, I'm gonna want an angled rod end at one end and a straight rod end at the other. And we're gonna try to find a matching pair. And it doesn't matter what manufacturer they come from. It's just if I've got an axial on one, I would like an axial at the other end, and I think I've got them. Alright, I'm going to dig bins. I've got to find a... This is the one I think I'm going to go with. I've got to find a solid link, roughly, oh, really short, like a 40, between a 40 and a 45. If the universe is going to try to hand it to you, you might as well try it. This is, I believe this is just a stock drag link from a Deer Explorer, from Jenny's. We need a, that's 25, it's too short. We need a 27. Let's see how this lines up. If I can find something in the bins that is pre-made and use that as my basis to figure out how long this thing needs to be, I will absolutely do that. I think that with a 5 or 6 millimeter spacer, just like that. So we got 863. We need about a 20 or a 22. Let's go with a 22, because if it's a little too long, we can just lock nut it on the back. Very easy to do. This is not attached to the servo, so we can do it remotely. I would love for this to work. It is probably going to be sufficient. I want to go that hole. Because why do we do this? Why don't we just copy what's on the moo over here at back of frame? Because we don't know if this is the jam. Okay, so I just need to get this pressed down so we can see. I want to see if this will clear the mechanism. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now, no matter what goes down, we will be using this servo horn. I swear by these double clamper servo horns, they are hard to die. But rather than hole 3, we are going to go out to hole 4. And I think a 22 with a lock nut on it will be our guy. Maybe a 20. I think a 20 with a lock nut on it, because I like to run a lock nut on the back side of the drag link so that it can't fall off on us. It goes down just like that. And then we go boop, boop. Now it looks great. It's great. Well, it works great. Does it look great? I don't know. But it works great. So what we do is, for persistence of memory, if you're thinking about it in that moment, do it in that moment. We are going to remove that horn from the servo and we're going to let it flop, because chances are we will forget. We will get this thing hooked up to an ASC, we will power it up, and that servo horn will be on halfway off, and it will go ring and just throw it to full and either strip out the servo horn, break something, burn out the servo. The first time you energize a vehicle, this is where your servo horn should be, just hanging off to the side. Or, no, just hanging off to the side. I was going to say maybe mounted to the servo but with nothing attached. No, just have it off. And the servo will center itself and we'll be good to go. So now what we need to address is we've got to pull the shock. Ball end will assist here. We've got to pull the shock so that we can pull the shock tab, because by looking at it, I think the shock tab, will that clear? No. We need to cut this down a little bit more. So we need to pull the shock so we can pull the shock tab. We need to pull the shock tab. We need to head back to the Dremel again, and we need to put it in a little bit more clearance, so that we can lay the shock down. I think in the front, the shock needs to be laid, it needs to be all the way at the back at the upper hole. So as far away from the stock holes as we can get. Unfortunately, everything is attached to the cage. And you know what? We've removed the fronts. Can we reach this and remove the gear? Yes. What we're basically trying to do, when I'm setting something up like this, I'm trying to get it so that the droop at the front and rear ends is the same. Is it chosen through any sort of scientific method? No. When I build buggies, buggies are buggies, man. I want a lot of travel. I want them built into a lot of travel. I don't want limiters. I don't want any of that. If I wanted to limit the suspension travel on this, I'd put a shock that's 10 millimeters shorter. I'd change out the 120s for 110s. I don't think we have any crazy interferences. So I think to do the work on the cage, seeing as we already had 2 shocks detached, I think we can pull these 2. And I think we can just lift the cage off, which will allow us to do all of the dremelry that we need to do. Oh, yes. Because we cut this off with flush cutters. I think I already threw the piece away. There's that truss that goes right here. The Capra cage is well and truly designed for center pumpkin axles. It's got the little relief in the middle, in the front for the center pumpkin. There was a little notch right here for the center pumpkin. Because we're running a gearbox that is absolutely not a Capra gearbox, the drive shafts don't exit the way they should. We are going to cut up drive shafts here momentarily and get them slapped on. We can do it much easier with the cage removed. But I want to get the Dremel involved, and I want to clean off this stuff. I want to get this beveled down because the rear upper links just very nearly hit them. And we can also move our link positions. I want to go up 1 hole in the rear. I want to go down 1 hole in the front. We can make some adjustments. And I'm also thinking about, I don't want to. The side plates do not physically attach to the center plate, the chassis, in any way other than there's 2 little guide pins on each side. It is solid right there in the middle. The temptation is to drill straight through, tap it, and put a screw in to hold them together. But I also don't know if I want to. I really do wish that the Capra cage attached in more than 4 spots. Like just 1 more screw in the middle. Or 8 screws, do 6 screws, just more than 4. That's a lot of trust. That means that everything that is sprung on the cage is attached to the primarily unsprung stuff with 4 in the middle, 2 at this end and 2 at this end. That's all that holds it together. I don't know. It makes me nervous. While we're at it, this is the mount for the little light bar. It comes on the Capra. Here's what we think of the little light bar. They're snags. They just snag on everything. So they are removed on here. They will be very shortly. This guy needs a little bit of work done on him in another, like off-camera stuff. His little light bar mount will be removed as well. So I've got to Dremel further down right here so I can get more lay down on the shock. I just noticed that there are missing screws. And I think I have the screws I need. As I said, the screws that came with the axles are not terrible. I would just like to replace them with screws of known origin. Either Traxxas hardware or hardware from McMaster. Put that in there. I thought that I wasn't going to be able to run this little center brace because of the position of the BTA. Nothing about the Capra cage is conducive to running behind the axle steering. But you can indeed bend things with the force of your will. And I want BTA on here. And while under direct full compression, which is meaningless, I know we all do it. I do it. I can't stop myself from doing it, which is where everything's assembled and you just push this, like you push the axle up or you push the vehicle down and stuff hits. Well, that doesn't really matter. In articulation, where if you lift 1 wheel, if you can get the shock to completely collapse and nothing mechanical hits anything else, you're golden. In the rear, it is actually kind of helpful if you can get full articulation but the link strikes something earlier on direct compression, because then when you're climbing exceptionally vertical, it won't allow as much compression into the rear. And if that rear axle stays down lower, it's much more difficult to flop over backwards. This thing is coming out, honestly, as much as I do not like working inside of a camper cage, this thing is coming out pretty great. I just looked down and I'm really thinking about just attaching a plate to the top of the Stealth X and just putting the speed control right on top of it. All right, we got all this trimmed up. It ain't gotta be perfect, it's just gotta be done. Same thing up there in the front. We got these brought down a fair amount, not too much. Should be about the right size on the opening there. I was kind of like dry fitting to see if this is actually going to clear, and it's going to be very, very close, as one would anticipate. What I might do, I need to pop a rod end here. That looks like a 5.7 by 7. That is a 5.7 by 6.3. That explains a lot. If we just put like a 7.5 in there, or I do have some 5.7 by 8s, if we put one of those in there, we should easily clear. So what we're going to do is we're going to treat the configuration that it's in as full compression. I don't think it's actually going to compress this much. This is basically the maximum amount that the suspension can compress. So we are going to loose fit one of these. Nope, we got to do it the other way. Hopefully the links are holding everything in place. Now I wish that during earlier fabrication process I had thought, we should put an extra screw in there. I had to put so much work into that chassis plate as is, not directly recommended unless you like doing a lot of work. If you like customizing it completely to your application, it's the one for you. So we'll get this in place, and then I want that inserted all the way, and then I like to go well over. So this is like at the ball is right there. So then we're going to cut that guy off, and we're going to be extra cavalier. I usually do the rear first because I have this constant lurking fear. Oh, what if we cut it too short? A, not a problem. B, knock wood, I've never cut one of these too short. I usually make them, this should probably be 3 or 4 marks. It's a little ruler, so they're really easy to cut. It should be 3 or 4 marks shorter. I basically make it to where it's inserted all the way on, and they're not that far onto the pinion when they have the pins in them. This is sunk all the way. The cut to length is not my favorite, right? Because once you cut it to fit this, end of. You can't put them on anything else. You can't make changes to it. Oh, you want to lengthen your wheelbase? Well, then you get to order a new set. They are inexpensive, but they do have the most clearance, because in the middle of it, it's just this, and at the one end of it, it's just this. So if you can't get that to clear, like I'm still concerned, is that going to clear right here? We're going to find out in just a few minutes. It is truly only every once in a rare while that I get one of these. Did these not come with... Are they all in there? Should be a little bag for each. That's 2 pins and 2 set screws. Oh, there it is. Hiding in amongst the plastic. It is very rare, almost to the point of being exceptionally rare, that I get one of these on the first shot. And usually, as I said, I err to the side of caution, unquestionably, so they're usually 3 or 4 millimeters too long. I then like to install it. We're going to have the rear maybe maybe forward, maybe reverse. We'll see how it goes. I generally like to have it with the splined portion at the gearbox. That way you're not dragging that splined portion across the rocks. I don't know. Because when you make it too long, the slidey bit, when you make it too long, you can't make it too long at the splined end. That's fine. Where you're going to make it too long, what I always do is, when you see they have these mounted down, it's flush. And the way the one that's sitting in the front end right now is almost like that. So it has to be at least to there. Because you can have about that much over insertion. Just that little, what is that? 2 millimeters maybe? Because otherwise you have the opportunity to hit the yoke on the end of the shaft. This one is fully inserted, but it's also quite close. So we're going to drop a pin in it. We need that front pinion needs a shim on it. Because this looks really close, actually. I also just I like a nice insert bit that I can use my hand, because then I'm not gonna force anything. It's gonna, if it goes, it goes, and if it doesn't go like that, we stop and we ask ourselves, why is it not going? It's usually just because we don't have it lined up right. Okay, that is in. And then we got to pop the side plate. Oh, whoa. Okay. We are too long by 2 millimeters. I wish I could pick it up for you, but I think, where's my pick? I think we can just, I can't quite get the pick down through the yoke. So the other end of it looks pretty much like, we can recreate it for you. It looks about like that. So not optimal. And we don't need that much insertion. At full compression, we're right there. Let me see if I can hold this in place. See if we can manipulate it. It's a lot on the one hand, it's easier to do it when everything's disassembled, and on the other hand, it's infuriating to do it when everything's disassembled. So this vehicle does have a lot of travel. Articulation. Please, wire, get out of there. I'm losing my mind here. Okay. So we can't quite full compress, and then at full droop, we're only coming out 7 millimeters or so. That's going to be great. If we're in an environment where I'm watching the cut to length move more than that, I don't like that. I want at least half insertion remaining, preferably 3/4 of the insertion. And on these particular guys, we're only starting with 20 millimeters. So we're still, yeah, so we're at about 2/3, 3/4. I'm okay with that. So you can see there's a little discoloration. We've got I'm going to take 2 millimeters off of it, and then we should be absolutely golden. And I was just going to go do a blind, but instead, how about we make a mark, and then we take that portion off, and then we'll know we didn't cut the thing too short. They give you 2 little extra stainless, could be zinc plated. Let's see, do they stick to a magnet? They do. They give you 2 little zinc plated additional set screws, and there is another hole in the back. Looks like that, and I put it in there. I mean, why not? It's you can wear a belt with your suspenders. Why not? It's not gonna hurt. And then what we do is we do the exact same thing a second time. We're gonna have 0 issues with clearance in the front. I think even at maximum droop. Yep. This is an application. This is why all of the buggies here run cut to lengths, because they're, well, half of the buggies here run cut to lengths because that thinness is going to, with low roll center, with the links coming real tight, there's going to be spots where the drive shaft and the link are like, oh, why iota. So the smallest link you can use, I mean the smallest drive shaft diameter you can use, the better. So we're going to set this guy up like this, and we're going to find out right about now whether or not, oh, the wires, I swear to you. Just roll with me, please. What are we, okay. Sometimes inexpensive things, I'm like, why is that not going on? When they drilled the hole, hear that guy going, they definitely did not deburr that. That's why you can get 2 cut-to-length drive shafts for like $16, $17. Sometimes you gotta do, oh, it's on both sides. Sometimes you gotta do a little work on your own. It was really feisty. It was really feisty. Oh, I seem to remember saying, as I should have, the process for making the second one is exactly the same as the process for making the first one, which is we cut this, we grind it, we test fit it, it doesn't fit, we grind it some more, and then we bolt it all together. And it looks like, you know, if we're gonna get really hopeful, and I feel like it's not too late, we can get hopeful. I feel like it's gonna clear. We're gonna hop all the way to a 5.7 by 8 in the front shock, and we're gonna hope that clears. We're doing a lot of hoping. We're wishing and a hoping and a praying, because I just want parts to not clang into other parts. Now, to get some of these parts installed, and we get to do a little dance, a little bit of a dance, which is try not to let the drive shaft fall apart. It's fine if they do, but you know, you try to do a little dance with yourself. We've got to get the cage bolted back onto this. We'll get the rear shocks bolted to it. Yeah. I'm going to bolt it back together. The technique for reassembly is effectively the same as disassembly in reverse. Here's hoping clearances stay good. We can get this thing, we can get this speed control soldered up, we can get this cage put back on, we can set it down on its wheels, and if we're really, really lucky, we might even make it move. All right. I got to the point where I said that with any luck, we would get to move back and forth on the bench, and I think that we've gotten there. I also think I mounted the rear shock too far forward. I think it needs to come back like 2 holes. It's not an interference issue, it's that we've got a little more droop in the front now. I did indeed, with the grindery, manage to get them all the way back, and absolutely no issues there. No issues there. We have full articulation, drive shafts in place. At full droop, we have about 7-8 millimeters exposed. At full compression, we're all the way in. At the rear, at full droop, we have about 3 millimeters exposed, and at full compression, it is fully collapsed. I lengthened the rear uppers out about 3 millimeters. You can see a little bit of thread. Pulled that up. I would actually like to clock it a little bit more, but the amount that I would like to clock it will mean I need a different upper. Either a different upper, like maybe a short upper with long rod ends at one end. We basically need whatever this link is now, whatever the length on that is, and we'll approximate it. We're looking at about 140. I think they were 138 before. They need to be about 142 because I kind of want to get this box flat on the ground. I want to move that shock back a couple holes because, I mean, it's close, but you see how it's nose high? I want it like that. Just that little bit of difference. Another 4 or 5 millimeters of downward travel in the rear. For whatever reason, that particular Escape 32, I could get tones, I could get it to boot. I couldn't, it would just go beep, beep, beep. I don't know. And it would not sync up through Wi-Fi. It just gets stuck on the loading settings screen. I don't know what is going on there. So in an effort to get it running, AG Innovations Ninja, solder on some bullets, plug it in the side. A little BEC bundle out of the way. The wires are not exactly what we'd call clean. I found a little 3D printed electronics tray that was in the random LCG bits bin. Just kind of slapped everything on there. Is that the permanent electronics configuration and position? I would go almost so far as to say absolutely not. I think the front shock angle is just about perfect. That is exactly where I would like to have that. I think the rear is laying down the tiniest bit too far. That is why we have not attached panels, which leads me to believe that the next installment of this, it is softly drizzling outside. The next installment of this will be something like a double ghost type of operation. I wish you could see it run somewhere off of the bench in this installment, but I don't think we're 100% ready yet. I gotta go through, I'm gonna do those shocks. I'm gonna wait for Amazon to deliver those rear uppers. Where's that sit? Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's just straight dead flat across the bottom. We've got, on this tire with this bag, 58 millimeters under the rear pumpkin. We've got just a hair shy of 70 under the skid, and it is as flat as a pancake. Front differential, it's just about the same, surprisingly, considering how much more weight is mashing down on those inserts. Yeah, it's a little lower, probably closer to 55. Look at that bag. And then we're not at full road grader steering, but we've got us a good amount of steering. That link separation looks pretty good. We will see how it behaves in the upcoming double ghost, and we've got one more hole we can go higher, and I'm basically in the middle. The bottom rows of holes are not going to be useful for a tire of this size. Honestly, we may have doomed ourselves a little bit. We're in the second row here of 5, and we're in the fourth row here of 5. We could have gone even higher on this one, but I was worried about the cage. Could always run high clearance flipped to try to clear the cage, but I mean, that's 150 millimeter, and we're well under it. Let's go full Midatoyo on this. When's that front gonna lift? 175. Articulate now. 175. Oh yeah, with that road grader steering, right about the same, about 175. I don't know. Maybe that little extra bit of droop in the front. This is basically going to be the Ghost Ride configuration. This is going to be the configuration. I think the way we're going to end up doing the wire is we snake it through the normal Capra spot, because this will have a hood installed. This battery drops down into there. The shock tabs do double duty, so we won't need a strap or anything on that to hold that battery in place. This will be the first time it has moved under its own power. Put that down right about there. Oh. Smearing. Basically, what I'm looking for is what people often mistake for torque twist is not in fact torque twist. It is just motion has got to go somewhere. We are very heavily damped because these shocks are not expensive mechanisms. We are running 1 pound springs. So we have 4 total pounds of springing, which would very likely be too much were it not for the fact that the shocks are laid down so far. So we're lowering the effective rate. We are very heavily damped. Unsurprisingly, block, 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 block. Just have to steal one. Just got to steal one. Now, as it sits right here, I mean, we can just, I was going to say, we've got a couple, oh, look at that. We've got a couple grams to add. We need that guy. There'll be a couple more grams of stuff going on this. Not a lot. This is going to be very, we've thrown the panels on. You know, there's going to be a couple more screws. There'll be some bits here and there. We will probably change the ESC mounting. 3247. AKA 7.15 pounds. Right about 7 pounds, which is crazy. It's Yukio's, did I mention Yukio? Yukio's stablemate, Economoo, the Moo, is right around 9 pounds. So I guess that's the difference between Capra cage and Injora Capra-esque cage. 200 grams per wheel. Just over 400 grams for the rear axle, right about a pound, and we're almost at 2 pounds for the front axle. So right around 1,000 front axle, 400 for the rears, 1,400, 800 for the wheels. If my math is correct, that's 2,200 out of 3,200 grams is completely unsprung. The links are half unsprung, the shocks are half unsprung. We are not toting a lot of sprung weight here. We are mostly unsprung weight. This should be pretty good. I mean, the body panels, you remove this stuff, and we're down to 7.05. If you took the 2,200 out and put a 1,300 in, we are not weight weaning a Capra buggy. We're not weight weaning a Capra buggy. Call it 7 1/4. I think it'll be a safe estimate that we're going to come in 7 1/4. And also, do please take into consideration, and I'm not so much speaking to you as I'm speaking to myself, 7 1/4 is lighter than a Vanquish Phoenix. So 270 wide, 360 wheelbase, overall length. 490, just over 490, and 7 pounds. 7 pounds feels pretty good. Don't run over your own body. 0 efforts at weight reduction. We have 1 small effort at weight manipulation. Predator Ibex. It's very humid in here right now. It is almost 70% humidity inside the building. They love it. Predator love it. Hopefully when we get this thing out for its double ghost, which will literally, this isn't an instance of me splitting it into multiple episodes. It's hot soup outside. It rained and then immediately went right back up to 90 degrees. So it's like 90 out there. All of a sudden, we live in Georgia, apparently, And it's just wet. It's super wet everywhere. And when I'm building these things, I don't have any sort of weatherproofing in mind. I doubt that speed control is weatherproofed. None of this is explicitly weatherproofed. So I would like to not get water inside my Lil Novas, which are grotesquely expensive. It feels great. Let's see. Get that rhino wino. It's only when you get up there at what? It's only right near 100%. So luckily this thing probably should not spend too much of its life up around 100%. This is another one of those things. Let me break it down for you a little. It all began when my wife said, you should build me a G-Wagon. And I built her a G-Wagon, TRX4, put G-Wagon body on it. Fast forward sometime later, I'm complaining that I flip my FJ40, my FMS FJ40 over all the time. She says, well, maybe you should build me one, and then we can drive the same one. So, you know how that happens. And then she said, man, just out of the blue, a buggy sounds neat. And here it is. And once again, just really, rain's starting again, just really benefiting from lessons learned, mistakes made. Now, I've never done this combination, but in terms of mistakes, oh my goodness, none of the link screws are tightened down. This thing, if it was nice outside and we had taken this outside, it would have fallen apart. So just definitely lessons learned. You can get BTA in a capper cage because we can get full that way and there's no impact. And we get full this way, but it doop, doop, and the rears kind of do the same thing where they go into the cage, and it's like half compression. But you don't, that's fine. That's not a bug, that's a feature. I don't want that to compress more directly down. I'm amazed, yes. If you want to see the entirety of it, obviously head over to the live stream and watch the, what do they call them, VODs? Watch that live stream. Link will be in the description. And you can see how we got to where we got. All in, we're probably talking about 20 hours or so of total between Festival of Links, getting your links set, and I had something to operate off of as a baseline, the guy who was out here earlier, the Moo, and overall, I feel great about how it came out because I don't see, there's nothing here that would indicate to me that it's not going to perform. So we will all cross our fingers together. They are all bits that I like. Rhino, Flash Hobby, offset Capras, 360 wheelbase for this size tire. I'm not going to lie, I laid this out knowing that these are here for a good time, not for a long time. Will it focus on them? There they are. There they are. This is what happens. Particularly Predator. Oh yeah. They just start to, they get frangible and they start to come apart. So we will rock these until they literally fall off, and then we're going to go to the usual suspects. We're going to put some platinum tier nonsense up on this. We're going to put Sedonas or Rovers or geologic infections, aka rock bumps. We're going to put tires for that jam. Sedonas sound pretty good. We're going to get something on here, but these will definitely do for now. Thank you for dropping by for now. We look forward to seeing you in the next one. In between now and then, please, one and all, your very best. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you here in the canyon for the next one. And I can't say that numerically, sequentially, chronologically, the next one will be this one outdoing its double ghost. But soon. So come on back and see us. If not for that, then for something else.